on this edition of All Angles Champs 2019.
She's scorching this track.
Pinnock has absolutely blown this field away.
Once again, a big success.
Eye on the clock.
Excitement.
The twin turbo engines.
Rivalry.
Calabar giving chase after a bad change at the 200-meter mark.
Records and victory.
The fastest 14-year-old in the entire world.
But issues remain. Student athletes, academics versus sports, transfers, and competing with injury. So while we celebrated champs, who is protecting the student athlete?
So much for joining us. So joining us in studio to talk about those issues, we have with us coach of Kingston College, Leaford Grant, and you can see he's resplendent in purple. Had to expect that, I suppose. Sports medicine expert Dr. Paul Wright also with us, as well as RGR and TVJ sports reporter Jermaine Brown. Well, let me just start by asking you generally. I'm not going to ask Mr. Grant this. Dr. Wright, overall, how was champs this year?
Excellent. I really thought that the performances excelled, not only in quality, but when you look at the athletes, how they performed and how they went over the 5 days, I thought it was a much better champs than I've seen before.
In terms of what?
In terms of the quality of performance, they still had some niggling injuries that I was very concerned about. In the first 2 days, I saw athletes in bandages. That gave me a great concern, and it developed that those athletes tend to drop out as the day went, as the race went on, as the 5 days went on. And I always believe that that is a problem. Our blessing is our talent, and is also our curse. Because what happens is that these children now become expendable. If one breaks down, you just go and get another one, and you're still on top. And that is our curse. We are so good.
All right, we're going to come back to that. Jermaine, what about you?
It was a fantastic championship. And it played out not like many people would have thought. They going into the champs, it was felt that it would be close going between KC and Calabar.
Yes.
But in the end, KC blew away Calabar. It turns out...
Mr. Grant over here last.
Yeah. It turns out it's on the girls' side.
Yes.
That on the final day of champs, the Saturday, that many persons were closely watching, because by then, many persons would have known already that KC are on their way to winning the boys section. But on the girls' side, it was close going down to the final moments in the afternoon session, when Hydel were hunting down Eden Allen being able to stave them off by 7 points. Eden Allen had a 60-point lead going into the final day. So the girls provided, that suspense on the Saturday evening. So they held their own right throughout girls and the boys.
So, Mr. Grant, why were the pundits so wrong?
I don't know your facts there. we knew that we had a winning team based on our calculations.
But they have winning and then you have donkey's length.
So what you look at, we have a donkey length.
82.5.
No, the boys stepped up. The boys stepped up big time. With our calculation, we calculated that we would have had a 370 points team. Give and take, at champs you will have people making mistakes. So that probably got on to about 350, but we thought about 350 would have done enough points to win champs. But the boys stepped up big time. We had some splendid performances on the day. The boys took cue from some great performances from like Wayne Pinnock. He jumped 8.05, right. And that in itself was motivation for the other boys that we never expected to do that well, to step up and give their contributions.
Yeah, but the significant difference between last year and this year, what you did over the past year?
Well, we started early. We looked at what were our weak areas.
I always passing KC boys.
we start much earlier than that. We normally start in August, but we realized that we had a problem in the technical areas, the hurdles, the chores, and some other technical areas. So we started early. We started teaching our boys how to hurdle, the youngsters, because we realized that we needed those events to actually capitalize on our scoring at champs. So that pays off for us. We got a new hurdles coach. He came in experience from San Diego, and he did a tremendous job. And it's all there to see his job, and the boys did well in hurdles. So.
All right, let's get into some of the issues. So on that issue, let me start out with the issue Dr. Wright mentioned, the ongoing concern about injuries and our high school athletes suffering injuries and then it affecting their career later on in life. Jermaine, first you, because I know you track a lot of these athletes over the years.
I like that word you use, I track a lot of them, right? Right, well, once again, we saw a championship in which a number of athletes turned out with kinesiotaping on various parts of their bodies. And from early out, as Doc mentioned, and it made us wonder just how injured some of these athletes were. Edwin Allen, for instance, they were forced to use two of their top athletes who were injured later in the championship. Kivona Davis turned out for the 200-meter final on Saturday, heavily strapped, was still able to win. And there was also Dwyer, who won the Class 2 girls 800 for Edwin Allen. She was also injured, ran the 1500-meter final as well, and didn't look at her best. But they knew that Edwin Allen needed the points, and they were put back out there, and they were able to deliver for their schools. So we did see once again where some athletes ran whilst injured for the sake of getting points. In this case, Edwin Allen needed those points to stave off Heidel. So that is also an issue that will have to be continued to look at, the winning at all costs situation. So coaches will have to address that for sure.
Let me say that I am amazed at the modesty of Coach Grant, because one of the things that I noticed about the Digicel Grand Prix, the meets that are coming up, is the frequency in which these athletes would run in order to gain points to qualify. And the big difference to me is the management of KC under the leadership of whoever is in charge. And I'm looking at Mr. Grant here, and he is smiling, because what they did this year was a complete turnaround of what they did the previous year. The KC athletes never came to every meet, and they were properly managed in regards to how you prepare them. You can't just run a child every day, every week, in order to gain points to qualify. And the management of the KC team manifested itself in a record. Total for champs, and I'm pleased at his modesty.
Well, okay.
Yeah, man.
Well, it was a deliberate strategy this year. We decided that we were not going to attend all the meets. We decided that during the development of the development meets, we decided that we were not going to run all our athletes. As a matter of fact, at the Grand Prix, some people would have seen some athletes, some youngsters jogging in the race. This was a deliberate thing from us. We already won the meet, so we decided we were not going to push them. At champs, we decided that it's one youngster per event, and the only double we will do is probably the 1-2 double, which we think was manageable. But it's a deliberate attempt to protect our athletes and to ensure that we have minimum amount of injuries. You realize that if you push our athletes too much, the youngsters, then we are only going to hurt that youngster in the long run, and that youngster probably can't represent Jamaica and that youngster athlete's future. So we are trying our best to ensure that we protect our athletes as much as possible.
There's a question I've been asking in terms of power dynamic. To what extent do parents generally, and I know you have individual parents, to what extent do parents actually take an active role in their kids running or not running, to say, hold on, I'm in a business, if the school won't run you, I don't care if the school need you, you're not running. Is that so? Your eyebrows actually went up just now.
I can't imagine a parent saying that to a school who is involved in getting a team ready for championships, and this is an athlete who is going to prepare get points for them. Because this is how the parents live in their children who never did what they were doing. and that is what it is.
Living vicariously.
Yeah, yes, man, that is why. So that's why my eyebrows raised up when they say that. No parents
I find that
the coaches are the one who determine what happened to those children.
I find that
coaches.
Isn't that problematic?
Well, the coaches would be the better persons to ask. But I find that having been an athlete myself, the parents usually hand the athlete over to the coaches. It's at that point in time, the responsibility for the athlete's health and so on, comes under the auspices of the school and the coach. Take care of my pitney, maybe my one pitney, or ensure that you get the best out of him, ensure that he does well to get a scholarship. So the parents pretty much hand the child over to the school and the coaches in the hope that this child will be able to excel and do well for themselves, get a scholarship, and maybe even, who knows, go pro leaving high school. You know, that is the big hope. And right now, in high school track and field in Jamaica, we hear of parents being asked to sign contracts, right? Or we hear of parents being asked to look at potential contracts. And we hear of parents being asked to, from early, being asked to decide on the future of their child as it relates to which club they might go to or whether they might go overseas to college and so on. So, but I don't find that the parents have that control to say, no, my child won't be doing more than one event at Champs.
They choose not to exercise it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, true.
They have that control.
But I think if that happens, I can foresee where the coach and the parents will clash. Because if a coach feels that I want this youngster to double the 100 and 200,
Right.
but the parent feels that I don't like how she looked last night. She looked pained up, and despite the ice bath you gave her, she still doesn't look herself. But the coach says she's fine, man, or he's fine. He can come back and run both finals tomorrow. It's just a mental situation, you know. The coach and the parents might well clash. So
right, I tell you what, I want to let you in, and I want to ask a couple more questions on that, but let's go to break. We soon come. Remember our hashtag, it's TVJ, all angles soon come.